The Supreme Court just handed down a major ruling in Trump v. CASA. Hope I'm saying that the right way. And it could change how presidents govern for decades to come. So at the center of the case is a challenge to Trump's executive order ending birthright citizenship for children of undocumented immigrants. Do you see how these shows flow? See how I put these subjects just for you? Just smash that shit, Anna. All right, a lower court tried to block that order nationwide, stopping a cold across 50 states, even for people who weren't part of the lawsuit. The tactic known as a nationwide injunction has been used repeatedly by activist judges to derail Trump's key policies on immigration, voting, and border security. But the Supreme Court just shut that down. In a 6-3 decision, the court ruled that federal district judges no longer have the power to issue nationwide injunctions unless the case is certified as a class action. So going forward, court rulings can only apply to the actual plaintiffs involved. No more one-judge nationwide votes on presidential action. So, Lindy, first of all, what's being directly impacted, and what does this say about the balance of executive power and judicial power?
Well, this is extremely interesting because prior to the SCOTUS ruling, judges were essentially playing king, and people could go judge shopping and look for a friendly judge in order to achieve the outcome they wanted. This is something that both conservatives and liberals did. They would routinely go to, for example, traditionally, the Fifth Circuit, for example, is known to be conservative, or another circuit is known to be liberal, and they would just go to a friendly judge in order to achieve their desired outcome. You can no longer do that because right now, after the Supreme Court ruling, it's specific to that instance and specific to that jurisdiction rather than to the entire country. And so right now, in order to have a larger impact, someone would have to launch a class action.
Right.
Which is extremely hard to do and obviously very expensive. But right now, a single judge in deep blue California cannot have jurisdiction over ruby red California, but as of a month ago, they did. And this case is relevant to one specific topic, which is birthright citizenship, which, by the way, the Supreme Court didn't even rule on. They didn't rule on the merits of the case. They ruled on universal injunctions. And I do want to say one word of caution. Right now, conservatives are celebrating, but this is very premature. And you know why? Because it's only a matter of time before the pendulum swings in another direction and you have a liberal or progressive president and they do something you don't want, and you're going to have to rely on judges, and they won't be able to come to your aid anymore because universal injunctions are no longer.
Can I ask a question? Because I'm curious about this and I genuinely don't know. I know that a lot of corporations like to take their cases to Texas, where the courts are much more favorable to the corporate interests as opposed to the plaintiffs. Does this universal injunction situation have an impact on corporations, or is this just about executive power?
It's gonna apply directly to that case, and it doesn't apply nationwide ever again. It just doesn't.
Ooh,
yeah, exactly.
I don't know if corporate interests are gonna like that, but I mean,
exactly. So I think a lot of the celebration
cuts both ways, but I feel like there's more good than bad here. Or you think I'm crazy if we get, let's say, a far leftist socialist in the presidency? You're saying I'm going to pay at that point.
I think this is something that conservatives have been agitating for decades, because originalists like Sam Alito and Clarence Thomas, they say this wasn't written into the Constitution. This is a derivative power that we never really had. Where did it come from? And according to the text, it never really existed. So this is something that they've been wanting for a very long time. And Trump has been very upset about this, not just because of birthright citizenship. Do you guys remember another topic that he was upset about? Immigration. Because a lot of his executive orders have been completely stymied by the courts. Actually by the brother of Stephen Breyer. Stephen Breyer's brother is a federal judge who stopped a lot of Trump's rulings. So he's been extremely frustrated by this. And they have a term for judges like this. They call them judicial activists, who are basically dictating from the bench and overriding the will of the American people. But I would also love to talk about birthright citizenship, because I feel like this is...
Wait, I got one more question for you.
Yes.
I'm sorry. Okay. So can a state-led lawsuit, so a state attorney general, can they file a lawsuit on behalf of their citizens, so obviously everybody living in the state, seeking a judicial ruling that would block the enforcement of Trump administration policies within their state?
Would they go to the Supreme Court? In which case, obviously, that applies nationwide.
Okay, that's what I wanted to know.
Yeah.
Because this is the thing that I don't get. I mean, obviously, when it comes to the executive branch and executive orders, these are decisions that the president makes unilaterally that impact everyone in the country. If it gets a judge decides to strike it down in one state, they're striking it down based on our Constitution, but they're specifically addressing something that would apply to the entirety of the country. Like, so the birthright citizenship issue wouldn't just affect people in the state of Texas or wherever they're bringing that lawsuit. It would affect everyone in the country. So how do you like piecemeal strike down an executive order depending on the state that you're in? That's like a really interesting and weird.
That's why a lot
incredibly confusing.
Exactly.
Which is why I gave it to Lindy.
That's why a lot of legal experts right now are saying this is sheer pandemonium, and it's going to take a number of years to hash things out. And to add complexity to this already very complicated situation, there's something called a shadow docket. And that's where basically Supreme Court justices can do whatever they want. They oftentimes use a shadow docket to decide to adjudicate on issues involving death penalty cases. But it's not just that. The increase in the shadow docket has increased substantially over the decades. And guess what? They don't have to offer an opinion. It's just yes or no. That's all they do. They don't necessarily have to tell you why.
They don't have to write a decision. Like they just make a ruling.
Exactly.
Yeah,
they don't even have to tell you the breakdown. You may not even know the vote. They can basically do whatever the hell they want. And so that's why a lot of people are upset by the use of the shadow docket. And now we don't have a universal injunction. So a lot of people are saying it's basically the wild, wide west for the judiciary branch nowadays. And so this is extremely important because birthright citizenship is a very, very freighted topic right now.
Yeah.
And Nat, I have a handy-dandy graphic of the 14th Amendment because I think we should look at the text and the governing line, which is anyone who is under the, do you have that? It's a really old white guy. It's basically the father. He's the one who penned the 14th
Not that there's anything wrong with that.
Exactly. I love white guys. White guys are the shit. I'm basically blind. I can't even see that.
So Senator Jacob Howard, he introduced the Citizenship Clause.
Do you want me to read it?
The relevant line is anyone under the jurisdiction of the United States should be entitled to citizenship. That is basically the 14th Amendment. Some people, for example, like J.D. Vance and Ted Cruz, they are arguing that a child of a foreigner isn't actually under the jurisdiction of the United States. Their parents are under the jurisdiction of the country from which they came. That is the argument that they're making.
Is there case law for that? Like once years ago where an immigrant had a child here or somebody was traveling and had a child here and then there's like one particular.
Yes,
Wait, was
there
the
is.
child birthed here?
Yes,
or does it just matter like conception?
And
Like, where
they
drawing the line?
deported. Yes, I'm trying to remember.
Yes, it's actually someone
forgive
of
me, I
Chinese
cannot.
descent.
I should have looked it up again.
I know what you're talking
Yes,
about.
there's
and the Chinese Exclusion Act was actually part of this as well. And so the case law is actually in favor of birthright citizenship. I'm just saying that conservatives are making a case against it.
Right,
And
they're
this
making a
brings
case
up a
against
point.
it because they're concerned about what's referred to as birth tourism.
Yes, and
there
anchor
are
babies.
industries where people will fly here. They're like 2 weeks away from giving birth.
Our laws
I don't even know that. Like, I thought you couldn't even travel when you were that pregnant, but apparently it's happening.
If you're
Our last
Asian, it's hard to
episode
tell.
with Dr. Drew, honestly,
true.
you enlightened me on something that I had no idea about, which was the term anchor baby.
Yeah,
I had
and
never
I'm saying,
even
I'm telling you,
heard
as
of
an
that concept
Asian,
before.
if you're pregnant and you're Asian, you're 8 months, you may not know. I'm telling you right now, and a lot of Asian women come and American citizenship is their holy grail, and they just want that for their kids, and they pay thousands of dollars. They're super wealthy. They come here and then they pop the baby out and they just
And
go
then they
back
go
home.
back,
Exactly.
yeah. I do
I was gonna
see
say,
that as
final
an
thoughts
issue.
on this one.
I do see that as abusing the system. I don't know how to solve it, to be honest, because I'm worried about chipping away at birthright citizenship. I'm worried that it's going to open the floodgates to abusive administrations who want to strip people of their citizenship for other reasons, right?
Didn't that happen recently? Wasn't someone's birthright citizenship actually just stripped because they committed a crime? Can someone, I don't know if anyone can fact check me in real
It
time.
might have
but
been a
this
naturalized citizen
literally
situation.
just happened.
Oh, I
Somebody
haven't seen
heard
that story.
it was birthright citizenship. They committed a crime and they stripped it.
Why not
In
just
the
put them
United
in
States?
jail?
Yeah, I heard this on Tim Cost last night. Crap, I wish I could remember the exact example.
I'm worried about that kind of stuff because I'm sorry, if you're an American citizen, you were born here,
No.
And all of a sudden, like, the government's like, we don't like you, so we're going to strip you of your
Right,
citizenship.
and then who gets to decide
gets to
what's
decide?
the level? And that goes back to your point, what happens when the roles reverse and it's somebody else in power? Who could they then target? We always need to think about the equal application of the law when somebody else is in power.
Stripping somebody, though, of citizenship is a different
from not giving in the first
argument
place.
of not allowing anchor babies.
Exactly.
But how do you, okay, so this is
I know,
my
where do you
second
draw
question.
the line? Maybe
Where do you
there's,
draw
like,
the line? How do you
Are
determine?
you here legally? How long have you been here? Maybe there's an element of that. Like, okay, have
What
you
if
been
you're
here
What if
a
you're
year?
here with a tourist visa,
Then
totally
the answer
legal?
should be no. I think personally, 'cause otherwise I'm going to Paris. And I can't get pregnant at this
exactly.
point. But like, if I could have, I would have.
But what about to an American then? Like, but then
Italy?
in that
Sorrento?
instance, it's fine, obviously.
Wait,
but you're just
one
saying
of the parents is an American?
Yes, but
then,
you're
then
just
of
saying if
course
two
the child is an
tourists.
American. I adopted a kid from another country, and I had the luxury of giving her citizenship legally. It took me a hell of a long time, and nevertheless. But I think that this whole tourism, I do think that's an issue. And
It is an
baby thing
issue.
is not cool, and to say the least. But stripping somebody of their citizenship, it should not be okay. If you're a citizen, you commit a crime, you should go to jail, like
Yeah, I
all the
agree.
other
I
American
agree.
citizens,
Yeah.
in my opinion.
Yeah.
But are we ready to button this one up?
Well, I just have one final thing
Yeah.
to say. I think this also ties back to what we were talking about earlier with illegal immigration, because I think this is a huge enticement. If you,
It is.
If you want to come, like
It
right
is.
now, being American is such a gift. And I, as an immigrant myself, I can tell you being an American is a tremendous blessing. And a lot of people, millions, billions of people around the world feel the same way. If you clamp down on birthright citizenship, if you clamp down on international remittances and Medicaid coverage, it's less of an incentive to come to the United States.
I don't disagree with you. Thank you so much for watching Her Take. If you like the show, can you help us out by subscribing to the channel, clicking the notification button, sharing, commenting, joining the conversation? It helps us out a ton with the algorithm. We appreciate you.